You know that feeling, right? You set some huge ambitious goal. Maybe it's getting in shape, or saving up for a house, or finally learning that new skill, and you start out super motivated. But then, a few weeks later, it all just kind of fizzles out. It happens to everyone. But what if the problem isn't you? What if it's not about your willpower at all? And what if the secret to making massive changes in your life isn't about massive action? Okay, let's get into it.
I mean, we've all been fed the story about hustle culture, haven't we? That to be successful, you have to grind 24/7. But as finance expert Humphrey Yang points out, that's just a recipe for burnout. He figured out that real, sustainable success doesn't come from that kind of brute force. It comes from something much quieter and way more consistent.
And that's the big question, isn't it? If going all in just leads to flaming out, there has to be a smarter way to build the life we actually want. And it turns out there is. The answer isn't in some radical, overnight transformation. Nope. It's in something much, much smaller.
See, here's the trap we all fall into. We aim for a complete overhaul. We tell ourselves, starting Monday, I'm going to run 5 miles every single day. But think about it. A goal that huge demands an insane amount of motivation. And motivation, well, it's fickle. It comes and goes. We set the bar so incredibly high that we're practically guaranteeing we'll trip and fall.
So, to find a better way, we need to understand how our brains are actually wired. Your brain is, fundamentally, an efficiency machine. It absolutely loves to put common tasks on autopilot to save energy. And that automation process, that's the key to everything. We don't have to fight our brains, we just need to learn how to work with their built-in operating system.
So it all comes down to this really simple cycle that neuroscience has discovered called the habit loop. This is the blueprint for every single habit you have, whether it's good, bad, or neutral. It's a 3-step process that drives all of our automatic behaviors without us even thinking about it.
Let's break that down. First, you've got the cue. That's the trigger. It could be a time of day, a place you're in, even an emotion you're feeling. That cue triggers the routine, which is the actual behavior itself. And then, most importantly, comes the reward. That's the little hit of satisfaction that tells your brain, hey, that was good. Let's remember to do that again next time we get that cue.
And here's what's happening under the hood, neurologically speaking. When a habit gets locked in, the action moves from the conscious, decision-making part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, and gets handed off to a deeper, more ancient part called the basal ganglia. That's your brain's autopilot. It's exactly why you can drive home from work and have zero memory of the journey. The whole thing has become automatic.
Okay, so we know how habits form. The real question is, how do we use that knowledge to build the habits we want without needing superhuman motivation? Well, the answer lies in 2 absolutely brilliant frameworks that I want to share with you.
The first comes from a Stanford researcher named B.J. Fogg, and it's this incredibly simple but powerful formula. He says that for any behavior to actually happen, you need 3 things to all happen at the same time: the motivation to do it, the ability to do it, and a prompt or a trigger to remind you to do it.
And this graph shows the secret perfectly. That curve is what Fogg calls the action line. If your behavior is somewhere above that line, you'll do it. If it's below, you won't. Now, look closely. When a task is really hard, way over on the left, you need a ton of motivation to get it done. But as you move to the right and make the task easier and easier, the amount of motivation you need just plummet.
And that right there, that is the hack. We can't just summon motivation out of thin air, can we? But we can always control how difficult the task is. So instead of trying to run a marathon, which takes heroic levels of motivation, the new goal just becomes put on running shoes. That is so laughably easy, you'll do it even on your laziest day.
All right, ready for framework number 2? Let me just show you a number, 37.78. What do you think that means? Well, it's the absolutely mind-blowing result of getting just a tiny bit better every single day for a year. It's the magic of compounding.
The author James Clear really popularized this idea, called the 1% rule. Think about it. A 1% improvement is basically invisible. You'd barely notice it. But when you stack those tiny, consistent gains on top of each other, day after day, you get this explosive, exponential growth. It's not about one giant leap. It's about hundreds and hundreds of tiny, easy steps.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds great in theory, but does it actually work in the real world? Well, let's take a look at some examples from real people who have totally transformed their lives with habits that seem almost too small to count.
I mean, how simple is that? It's not some huge, complicated productivity system. It's just writing down one thing. But look at the impact.
This tiny habit didn't just help organize the next day, it brought peace of mind that night. And over time, that little bit of daily clarity adds up to a huge reduction in stress and overwhelm.
This is such a classic example of making a good habit automatic and effortless. You don't need discipline to save money every single month if that money never even hits your main checking account, right? You just set it up one time and the system does all the heavy lifting for you, quietly building your wealth in the background.
Okay, now this one is a really cool mental hack. It's called past tense scripting. Instead of writing a stressful to-do list for the week ahead, you write a victory log in advance as if it already happened. This works because our brains aren't great at telling the difference between a vivid memory and a vivid imagination. You're basically pre-programming yourself for success.
And the list just goes on and on. I mean, look at these. Each one seems almost too small to matter. Taking just one walk, which can snowball into better health. Investing just a few dollars, which compounds into thousands over the years. Making your bed, which starts your entire day with a small win. The power isn't in the single action, it's in doing it over and over and over again.
Okay, hopefully your mind is buzzing with ideas right now. So, let's make this super practical. How can you design and start your very first tiny habit like today? It's a really simple 3-step process. First, just pick a goal, an aspiration, something you want more of in your life, like exercise more. Second, shrink it. Shrink it way, way down until it is so ridiculously easy you can't possibly say no. Do 1 push-up. And third, and this is the secret sauce, find an anchor. Find a solid existing routine you already do every single day without fail. An anchor is the most reliable cue you can possibly use. Think of it like this. Instead of setting a phone alarm that you can just swipe away and ignore, you're attaching your new habit to something you already do on autopilot, like brushing your teeth or making your morning coffee. You're basically using the momentum of an old habit to launch the new one. It's brilliant.
So here's the recipe. It's this simple. You just fill in the blanks. After I current routine, I will tiny new habit. So, for example, after I put my head on my pillow, I will think of one good thing from the day. Or, after I walk in the door from work, I will immediately get out my gym clothes. Notice the goal isn't to do the workout, it's just to get the clothes out. You're making that first step incredibly, incredibly easy.
So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Stop waiting for some lightning bolt of motivation to strike. Stop trying to overhaul your entire life in one heroic weekend. Real, lasting, sustainable change is a quiet process. It's the sum of 1,000 tiny, almost invisible choices that you make every single day, compounding quietly in the background. And that brings us to the final and really the most important question. Don't worry about next year or even next month. Just think about today. What is one ridiculously small, easy action you can anchor to something you already do? What's your one push-up? What's your one breath meditation? What's your write down one thing? Because that tiny little action, that's where it all begins.